Welcome to Old Man Sports Talk. I'm your host, Old Man Nate, and today we're going to talk about the 2023 college football preview of the Pac 12 conference. The first thing I'm going to say is this the last year of the Pac 12 conference? If you've been paying attention to any type of football, every day they're talking about conference realignment, and the Pac 12, Big 12, and Big 10 are all in the middle of it. Now, Big 10 and Big 12 aren't losing any teams right now, but they're looking to add teams from the Pac 12. And we're talking as soon as next year. That really is odd, okay? Because usually it takes a couple of years for a team to be able to leave a conference, buyouts, and that sort of thing. And when OU and Texas left for the SEC, it took like 3 years for them to get over there, and it may have been longer than that. I forget exactly when the actual agreement came in place, but and the Sooners and Longhorns are actually leaving a year earlier than expected. It's supposed to have been 2025. They managed to make it over there for the 2024 season. USC and UCLA, I don't. There was only a couple years for them, and I'm not sure exactly what was involved with that. But in Colorado just announced last week that it's leaving for the Big 12. A former Big 12 member is now rejoining the Big 12, and so I think that's pretty cool. But I don't think they have a buyout either, and that's really odd that the Pac-12 doesn't have a hold on teams like that. So what is driving all of this? Well, it's TV deals, TV rights, TV money, and right now the Pac-12 does not have anything in place. Their TV rights expire this year, and they waited for so long to try and get a new deal, and they thought that they were going to try and be the first of the kind and come away with a streaming service, and it's not looking good. So right now, the Big 12, each team gets around 31 million for their TV rights. Okay. Um, and the Pac 12 was trying to bring in Apple and have their streaming service. But the problem with it is the each individual teams, what they're estimated to get, first of all, is about 12 million less than what the Big 12, each team in the Big 12 is getting. And it's not guaranteed because it's based off of subscriptions. And, I mean, with you already lost UCLA and USC, the biggest city in the West Coast. Then who's going to be watching the Pac-12? I'm not saying there's not fans of the other teams, but there's not near the coverage TVs as there is in LA. Okay. And so in Eugene, Oregon, or in Stanford, there, or some of these towns, I'm forgetting exactly where they're at, but Oregon State, I'm trying to think of where they're at, but smaller towns, smaller media markets. So they're not going. I mean, a subscription can be anywhere. I get that, right? You can get a subscription. You can be a Stanford fan and living in Connecticut. So I get that you can still do that, but it's still not going to be the same numbers. And I think the schools are realizing that. So now Arizona State, in fact, they're meeting right now, and they are voting on whether to leave the Pac-12 for the Big 12. I think they're both going to say yes, and they're going to bring Utah with them, which Utah who has a strong rivalry with BYU, and BYU just joined the Big 12. Their first year's this year in there, so they would be right back with that rivalry, and I think it's great for the Big 12. So you already have 9 teams gone or left, right? Because it's Pac-12, but USC and UCLA are leaving for the Big 10 next year. Colorado's leaving for the Big 12 next year, so that takes you down to 9. If Arizona, Arizona State, and Utah all decide to leave for the Big 12, that leaves 6 teams left. Half of the conference is gone. And what happens to the Pac-12 then? I think that they would probably right now try to stick it out. But here's another thing on that. I mentioned Big Ten going after some teams. The Big Ten are trying to get Oregon and Washington also to join the Big Ten to make it that would bring them up to 20 teams. Okay. And the problem with that though, for Oregon, if you're Oregon and Washington, is they would only get a portion of the media rights. Now, what that portion is, I don't know. Is that half of what the Big Ten other teams get? Is it a quarter? I don't know. But even half, and you got to think that's still not enough for them to leave for the Big Ten just yet. So, well, you say, well, why don't the Big 12 go ahead and grab them? Well, here's another thing. So the Big 12 only, their contract with ESPN only allows them to pay 31 million per school for up to 16 teams, and they will be at, well, technically they'll be at 13 next year. They'll be at 12 after OU and Texas leave this year. Then Colorado said they're at 13, and then if you add Arizona, Arizona State, and Utah, that's the 16 right there. So they can't add anymore without I mean the other, if they add more, they're not going to get the 31 million. So it wouldn't do no good for Oregon and Washington to come to the Big 12 because they'd be in the same situation they'd be enjoying the Big 10. So, and I think they'd rather be in the Big 10. Okay. So that leaves 4 teams left. If Georgia, if Oregon and Washington join the Big 10, that leaves just 4 teams left in the Pac-12: Stanford, California, Washington State, and Oregon State. And the Big Ten's actually interested in Stanford and California too, but again, it would only be a portion of the media rights. I don't think Stanford and Cal would I think they'd be okay with that because they're probably going to make. I mean, they're going to make less than what they made this year, but in the long run, they're going to make more. Whereas Washington and Cal, or Washington and Oregon, it's a bigger pay cut for them. So I think that they would want to wait until they can get their full rights, full media rights. But Oregon State, Washington State, what happens to them? I think they're going to be joining, the Mountain West or something else, a smaller, a group of 5 school. What they're going to be joining, and it sucks to be them, but I think that that's really what's going to happen. I don't see the Big 12 reaching out to them. The Big 10 maybe in time, but right now I don't see it. So looks like Washington State and Oregon State are group of 5 bound, and that's really gonna be unfortunate for them. Okay, so yeah, I really don't. So to answer your question, do I think they'll be, or I'm asking you first, do you think the Pac-12 will be around next year? My answer is I think there'll be 6 teams. Okay, I do. I think there'll be 6 teams, but it's only temporary. And in a couple years after that, the Big Ten is going to take at least two of the four of the six teams, maybe four of them. So that's what I think will happen. I think Utah, Arizona, and Arizona State are going to the Big 12 next year. I think they'll be at 16 teams, which is great for the Big 12. That's great. That makes them a stronger conference. All right. Um, adding adding Cincinnati, UCF, Houston, and BYU did not make them a stronger conference when Texas and OU left. It did not make them in the same level of conference when Texas and OU left. It actually dropped them. However, you add four teams, and I understand Arizona, Arizona State have not been, or even Colorado have not been, at the level of football that we would like to see them at. But Utah has the last couple of years, and Colorado has in the past. When they was in the Big 12, they played for Big 12 championships. They won a Big 12 championship, and when they was in the Big 8 before they joined the Big 12, they were at that level. So they can get back there. That's all I'm saying. All right. They have not been good since they went to the Pac-12 for whatever reason, but they was good in the Big 12, so they can get back there. All right. So now let's talk about the Pac-12 for this year. What do I think is going to happen in the Pac-12 this year? And I'm going to tell you right now, the Pac-12 this year is going to be a great conference. It hasn't always been that way, but this year they are the most they have the most talented quarterbacks overall in the conference than any other conference. I know the SEC guys are going to say, "Nah, we got him, we got him." I think that right now the Pac-12 is number one. I put SEC number two when it comes to quarterbacks in the conference. USC, Utah, Oregon, Washington all have really good quarterbacks. Really good quarterbacks. And what's ironic is all of them have transferred in from other schools. All of them have. So, um, yeah, and Colorado's quarterback's not too bad either. He's a transfer in too. Deion Sun. So the conference overall is loaded with quarterbacks, and it's going to make this conference really, really, really good this year. And it's a lot of balance in it too. Just like the ACC, when I talk about them, it's a lot more balanced. I think the Pac-12 is going to be a lot more balanced. This might be the best year of college football we've had from all across the country, from the Pac-12 all the way to the ACC, from the Big Ten all the way down to the SEC and the Big 12. Overall, top to bottom, the best year of college football we've had in over a decade. So I'm really excited for it. So the Pac-12, we'll start off with USC. USC is returning 8 offensive players, 9 defensive players, including their Heisman Trophy winning quarterback, their running back, and 3 wide receivers. What do I think they're going to do this year? Well, even though they're returning 9 on defense, I'm very familiar with their defense, type of defense they run. I'm very familiar with how they like to tackle, how they like to hit, and they don't. Their defensive line last year is what kept them in ball games and kept them from losing more ball games than they did last year. They lost 3 games last year. They lost to Utah twice, and they lost to Tulane. And I think that their defense. I think they lost a couple guys on the defensive line. Their defensive line is not going to be as good. Their linebackers and their secondary is going to be about the same. So I think that when it comes to playing teams, like I said, there's a lot of good quarterbacks in the league this year. I think their defense is going to cost them games this year. Okay, the history that Lincoln Riley has had when he coaches against really good defenses, he struggles. Caleb Williams is a special player, the best player in college football last year. Will have a chance to go back to back, be the first person to win 2 Heisman's since Griffin in the 70s. And but their defense again, I just can't bank on them. All right. So I think that Utah owns them. They're going to LA this year to play them, and I think that Utah is going to beat USC again. And again, I think they're going to lose a couple of games against teams with good quarterbacks and just as good a defenses or better. And so I got them going 9-3 overall and 7-2 in conference. Utah returning 7 offensive players, 9 defense. They got their quarterback, their running back, 2 wide receivers, and a tight end. They're going to be really good on offense. They're going to be really good on defense. Like I just said, I got them beating USC in the regular season, and that's going to be a difference. There's another thing: USC, Utah, Oregon, Washington, all these teams, they're all going to play each other. So they're going to figure it out on the field. Even though there's 12 teams in the conference, they are going to play each other. They play 9 conference games, and it's not like one of them got lucky and didn't have to play the other 3. So it's going to be they play all 4 of them play each other. It's going to be decided on the field. But I got Utah going 10-2 and 8-1 in conference. Oregon returning 8 offensive players, 8 defensive players, their quarterback, running back, wide receiver, and tight end. I think again, I think they're going to be really good on defense. I think they're going to be really good on offense. But I got them going 10-2 in conference and 7-2. I'm sorry, 10-2 regular season, 7-2 in conference. Washington returning 7 offensive players, 8 defensive players, including their quarterback, running back, 3 wide receivers, and their tight end. I think they're going to be the best team right now in the Pac-12. They are loaded on defense and offense. Return all their main weapons, or just had to replace a couple of linemen. I got them going 11-1 and 8-1 in conference. Oregon State, 8 offensive players, 5 defensive players. They also got to transfer in, but I'm not really high on him. He's a transfer from Clemson last year, their quarterback from Clemson. I'm not that high on him as other people are. I really thought he should have been benched last year at Clemson and let that freshman play. I thought the freshman was better than him. So maybe he'll be better in Pac-12. Who knows? But I got Oregon State going 9-3 and 6-3 in the conference. UCLA lost their quarterback, lost their running back. They are returning 7 offensive players, 9 defensive players, only have a wide receiver back from significant playing time last year. So I think they're going to be a little down this year, but they're going to be competitive because they got 9 defensive players. They're going to be good on defensive side of the ball. I got them going 8-4, but only 5-4 in conference. Washington State returning 7 offensive, but only 5 defensive players. They're returning a quarterback and a running back, and that's it. So I got them going 8-4 and 6-3 in the conference. California is returning 8 offensive and 9 defensive players. They are not returning a quarterback though. They're returning a running back and 3 wide receivers. So if they can get a balanced quarterback, one that can be just control the game and not turn the ball over, with as many defensive players they have returning, they can upset some teams this year. But until that's proven, I can't predict them to really do that. So I'm going with them going 5-7 and 3-6 in conference play. However, I would love to see them pull an upset or two. I really would. Arizona returning 8 offensive players, but only 3 defensive players. They are returning basically their entire offense on their playmakers, their quarterback, their running back, 3 wide receivers, and their tight end. They again could pull off some upsets if it gets into a shootout and our defense can pull off a stop or two. Only 3 defensive players returning, though, gives me some concern, and I just don't see them doing much better than 6-6 and 4-5 in the conference. Arizona State is returning 8 offensive players and 5 defensive players, a little better than Arizona, but I just can't. I mean, they got 2 wide receivers and a tight end, a brand new quarterback, brand new running back. The two, that's 2 guys that touch the ball more than anybody else on the field. Your quarterback and your running back. So I got them going 5-7 and only 2-7 in conference. But I do have them beating Oklahoma State in the second game of the season. Colorado. Colorado is returning 6 offensive players and 3 defensive players. However, they're not returning a single player that played significant playing time on the offensive side of the ball last year. So basically, they're just returning linemen and backup receivers and running backs. I know this is Deion saying it. Everybody's got high expectations for him, but I don't think this is the year for him. Give him some time. I do think that there's a chance for them to pull off an upset or two, but I don't think it's this year for them that they have a winning season. I think they go 3-9 and only 2-7 in conference. And last, Stanford. They are returning only 3 offensive players and only 3 defensive players. A running back, a wide receiver on tight end. That means a whole brand new line, a brand new quarterback, a brand new and more wide receivers replaced. I think that this is the coach's second year. It might be his last year because I think they're going to have a horrible season. They will be lucky to win one game this season. I got them going 1-11 though, and 0-9 in conference. So, what's my ranking the Pac-12? We'll go from 12 to 1. 12th is Stanford. I got them going 0-9 in conference. 11th, Colorado going 2-7. I got Arizona State at 10, also going 2-7. California at 9th, going 3-6. Arizona at 8, going 4-5. UCLA at 7th, going 5-4. Halfway through, Oregon State at 6, going 6-3. Washington State 5th, also going 6-3, but Washington State beating Oregon State in the head-to-head. USC, I got them finishing 4th. That's right. I got them finishing 4th and missing out on the Pac-12 championship this year as they go 7-2. Their 2 losses, I've got them to Utah and at Oregon. The third place team in the Pac-12, also finishing 7-2, I got the Oregon Ducks. Their 2 losses are to Washington and at Utah. And that loss to Washington and Utah, both those, that's what I'm saying. They all 4 play each other. This could easily be, who I have 1 could be 4, and who I have 4 could be 1. Okay. It's that close in this. And those games are going to be really, really good games and really important. But finishing second, I got Utah. I got them going 8-1 in conference, and their only loss at Washington. And then that leaves number 1, Washington, finishing also 8-1. Their only loss at USC. Okay. So that leaves number 1, Washington against number 2, Utah. And they played in the regular season. By the way, this field is on a neutral site. I believe it's in Las Vegas. The championship game is in Las Vegas. And like I said, they play in the regular season. Washington, I got winning the regular season game. In the Pac-12 championship, I got Utah winning their 3rd straight Pac-12 championship. Well, I hope you guys are just as excited as I am for football season, as we are less than 30 days from kickoff. We're less than, so we are about, well, actually, we're 30 days from kickoff for when the really big games kick off. We're 23 days away from kickoff for the first college game, Notre Dame and Navy in Ireland. I hope you guys can't wait. I know I can't wait. Well, in 2 weeks, starting in 2 weeks, we will have a show every week. In 2 weeks, we will have the SEC breakdown, and then following that, we will have our predictions on who will make the college football playoff and win the national championship, and also I will release my top 25 rankings, and then following those shows, every Wednesday we will be live to talk college football. All right. If you guys haven't already at this time, please take a time to like, subscribe, and ring the bell. That way you get notified every time Old Man Nate releases a video or goes live. And at this time, also take the time to go to oldmancoffee.shop to get you some coffee where we have 47 flavors that you can choose from, get you a t-shirt, or get you a tumbler to drink that coffee in. All right. Thank you guys for all your support. Keep watching. Leave comments. Tell me what you think is going to happen to the Pac-12. Is this the last year of the Pac-12? Let me know what you think. All right. Appreciate you guys for tuning in and watching, and we'll see you next time.